It's the Final Word Daily. Adam Collins and Geoff Lemon, the World Test Championship, Day 5. We have a 6 coming up. What a test match, Geoff, or at least it might be if they get the grandstand finish tomorrow. But tell us all about it in the space of 30 seconds.
Great first session. Kane Williamson and Ross Taylor hanging in there. They started the day 100 behind, didn't add many runs, but then 3 wickets came in a rush just before lunch. Taylor, Nichols, Watling. The wickets kept going in the second session. Kane Williamson hung in there, just leaving everything, chipping away. He got them past India's score. Then he got out. Tim Southee whacked a couple of sixes, got them 32 in front, and then it was India trying to replicate what New Zealand did and just hang in there. Tim Southee got the ball coming in. Rohit Sharma and Shubman Gill trapped the leg before wicket. They're 32 in front with 8 wickets in hand and a day to play.
Wonderfully done, yeah. So the deficit was 32 and now the lead is 32. They're 64 for 2 at the close. Kohli's there, Pujara's there. We're into the engine room. Tim Southee getting 2 balls to nip back off the seam just before the close. Rohit Sharma letting one go and not sending it upstairs. It was the right call in the end because it would have been umpire's call. He would have been walking regardless, and Shubman Gill done by a classic in-swinger. Let's go back to the start of the day. Just 34 runs, Geoff, in the first session. That first hour, I think, was 15 runs. Belated start. We started an hour late. We lost 7 overs off the top. We'll come to overs in a bit. But Williamson holding on for dear life. Ross Taylor doing much the same. The 3 Indian quicks were almost unhittable at different stages, certainly Mohammed Shami. Then the wickets come courtesy of some brilliant Virat Kohli captaincy. On 3 occasions in the morning session, there were wickets within 3 deliveries of Kohli ringing a change, twice with Shami and once with Ishant Sharma. I mean, it was absorbing stuff, wasn't it?
And also the field positioning, the wickets at short cover, the one at the third slip that he popped in instead of a second slip. And I think it was a function of India's bowlers just shifting the length up a bit. That first kind of hour and a half, they kept beating the outside edge because they weren't quite pitching full enough. And then it was that small adjustment from both Mohammed Shami and Ishant Sharma that picked up the edges that got them the wickets and that got through onto BJ Watling's stumps. That was the one dismissal where I think the delivery was talked up a bit more than it needed to be because Watling played across it and just didn't play it very well in the end. It was relatively straight on the stumps. But the little bit of away movement, decking away movement from Ishant Sharma to get the edge of Nichols' bat and the similar sort of movement away from the right-handed Taylor by Shami that had him caught at mid-off moving across to extra cover, really. It was a pretty extraordinary rush of wickets just before lunch after they'd been hanging on. And Kane Williamson with one of the best displays of leaving the ball that I've ever seen.
Yeah, I think that Watling dismissal reminded me of Brett Lee to Michael Vaughan in the 2005 Ashes. Over the wicket but wide of the crease, angling in towards middle stump and straightening and hitting off. I acknowledge that he played across it, but I mean, as you would with a ball that you think is going to trend towards leg stump. It was the perfect delivery to Shami for Shami to bowl after being swung around. I think that was the magic of Kohli. He realised when to bowl Shami from either end, and he bowled a fraction fuller, which pleased the television commentators who were kind of on him about how he bowled that pretty length, short of a length. We talked about that a couple of nights ago at the close of play, but yeah, that brought him reward. Let's talk about Kane Williamson. Just 7 runs in the first session, 2 whole hours in the middle. He ended up making 49 from 177, but I mean, that was sheer resistance, wasn't it? A clip through mid-wicket for a boundary, I think, out of that 7, but he must have faced 60 or 70 balls and just would not give an inch.
It was all about judgment of line and judgment of what the ball was going to do. He left so often just a few inches outside the off stump, but being able to read the fact that the ball was going away from his wicket. When it came in, he was all over it and smothered it. The judgment, the shot selection or the lack of shot selection, I suppose, was immaculate. And that's what made it all the more surprising, I suppose, when he did get out. But he didn't get out to a ball in that channel. He got out to a wider ball that he saw as a scoring opportunity and just tried to prod it away through point. I noticed on the commentary they were saying, he really wanted to get that 1 run for his half century. Mate, come off it. Kane Williamson's got about 400 half centuries. As if Kane Williamson gives the slightest unmentionable of picking up another Test 50. As if he cared about getting a run. He's not Jason Gillespie getting his first 50. Like, come off it. So he was trying to up the tempo just a little bit. You know, nothing rash, but he was looking to get. He'd got them just past India's score. He wanted to try to build the lead and was looking to be a little bit more proactive with the scoring, and ultimately got that thick edge to third slip where Kohli had positioned himself.
A lot of love for Mohammed Shami, but just a little bit of love for Ishant Sharma. That ball to Henry Nicholls. The reason Ishant Sharma's in the team is to bowl around the wicket to left-handers and get it straightening. And now he wasn't able to do it perfectly to the opening pair of Conway and Latham on day 3, I suppose it would have been. I'm getting confused with my days with the 6-day test match. But the ball that he bowled to Nicholls, much as it was with Shami, Nicholls had to play, beautifully taken by Rohit Sharma, diving across in front of first slip. Really safe hands in there, Rohit, who's having a good little spell as a test opener at the moment, seeing off the new ball in very tough conditions, as he did again today. But, a word for Ishant, who also picked up the wicket of Williamson later on too. So 3 wickets for him, 4 for Shami, who was quite outstanding, a couple for Ashwin. And then we're at a situation where ultimately it was the New Zealand lower order. Their last 5 wickets added 114. At the lunch break, Geoff, I thought India would probably take a first innings lead. I thought, well, look, the way they're bowling, it's going to be very hard for New Zealand's lower order. But to the immense credit of de Grandholm, then Jamieson, then Southee, and even Bolt for that matter, they all made the decision that calculated hitting was the way to go, because survival against a second new ball wasn't going to achieve an awful lot, especially with such a little amount of time left in the game overall. So to the credit of the bowlers to almost play white ball cricket and eked them up to a first innings lead, all out for 249. But I reckon that was to the credit of the guys coming in, making a decision, because as we saw in the first session, hanging around wasn't going to get them anywhere.
It was a relatively sensible thing to do, particularly while Williamson was there, because he was there up until Bolt and Southee came together as the last pair.
Yeah.
And it made sense. I wonder if it was tactically worked out with Williamson, but Jamieson particularly came out and swung a few big shots away. It seemed as though that was the strategy, was build it around Kane. He can provide the stability, they can provide the scoring, and any sort of lead in a match this tight, this low scoring on this surface, a 30-run lead is pretty handy. Had they been able to sort of chip that up to 60 or 70 with Williamson not getting out so soon, then that could have been a decisive lead in the circumstances. And you mentioned the Ishant Sharma delivery. It was just that little sequence of three deliveries that he bowled. The first 2 were just further back of a length, and they both seemed away from the left-hander. So Nicholls left one, and then he was able to play one off the pitch because he had time to see its movement. And then the one that got him was just pitched up that maybe a foot fuller, and that was enough for it to take the edge of the bat instead of the middle or go past.
Yeah, and I think that, look at the way that Tim Southee played as well. Look, obviously it's his natural game, and Geoff, you know all the numbers off the back of your hand when it comes to Southee, but crunching Test 6, 74 and 75. I mean, I guess they've just got faith in that lower order, that when push comes to shove, they can play white ball cricket. Bolt likewise, and I felt like it changed the energy of the innings a little bit. Like they went out to bowl knowing, even with a slender lead of 32, that they were the team more likely to win when they went in at tea when they were all out, compared to lunch when India probably felt like they were in a better position to drive the game.
Yeah, I think that's right, and it's swung back and forth a lot. I mean, an hour and a half into the day, India were just about distraught. They were beside themselves because their quicks have been bowling their hearts out and they hadn't got anywhere. They hadn't conceded runs, but they hadn't been able to get through. Then they pick up wickets in a rush. Suddenly you think, all right, New Zealand will be bowled out behind here, but then they're not. They get into the lead. We go back again. And I suppose where that leaves us is trying to calculate what might be able to happen on the last day. Notionally, and I stress this word, notionally we're supposed to get 98 overs on the last day. The weather will be fine, the bowling rates probably won't be, but if in theory we were to get 98 overs, could you see something happening like India going at, say, 3 and a bit and over for maybe 40 overs, getting 200 ahead, and then putting New Zealand in for the last 50 or 60 overs of the day to see if there was a chance to knock them over?
You'd love to see it. Look, in order to get a result here, one of the captains needs to make a big call at some point. And I would respect neither of them making a big call, given we've got this far. 2 days washed out. 10 overs scrapped today. We'll come back to that in a bit. Actually, sod it, we'll do it now. 91 overs should have been arrived at today. 91 out of the 98 after they lost the first hour. They abolished 7 off the top. They got 80.3 in today, acknowledging that you lose a few balls for the change of innings when it's mid-over. So they lost 10 all up in a test match, which has been defined by losing time, scarcity of time, needing to do more with less. How is it possible that India only bowled 23 overs in the first session? How is it possible that New Zealand only got through 30 of 38, so they had the extra half an hour, in the final session? It doesn't compute for me. If these now, don't get me wrong, there'll be criticism saying it was absorbing, compelling, captivating, riveting cricket. It was all of those things. I thoroughly acknowledge that the first session today was as good as Test cricket gets, but nevertheless, there's a responsibility to get through your overs, or you end up in a situation like India do now, where they are chasing the game with 10 fewer overs to bat than otherwise might have been the case. And yes, 98 are available tomorrow, and on the final day, you've got to get them in. But look, look, bad light is a factor more often than it's not after 7 p.m. Bad light might not be a factor tomorrow, but on balance of probability, based on the forecast, bad light probably will play a role deeper into the day. So they're going to need to want to bowl 98 overs, and they didn't want to bowl 91 today.
Yep.
And that bewilders me. Now, I've been writing about this, Geoff, and we've been talking about it on the podcast for years, that the existing sanctions do not work. If Virat Kohli gets fined 20 or 40 or 60% of the match fee for the team this week, what does it matter to him? I mean, and that's no criticism of Kohli's wealth, but I mean, you're talking about a fraction of what it'll mean to him strategically to go slow. There needs to be a sanction in play. There needs to be a sanction in game via runs. It'll probably never happen. We probably really need to accept that 90 over Test cricket's dead. And if that means we lose 10 overs per day or we lose 9 overs per day, and we acknowledge that 10% of Test cricket's gone, that's fine. The broadcasters get a 10% discount. The players get paid 10% less in their match fees. Punters get charged 10% less when they walk through the gates. If we're going to play 10% less Test cricket, like we did today, for no particular reason, then all of the different levers need to change as well, because that seems bonkers to me that there wouldn't have been every reason to rush through and to do what was required to get the overs in, to build up tomorrow to be what it could be. And instead, there is a far less chance of it happening because of over rates. And it's a blight on the game. And we say it all the time, and I feel like a broken record, but unless there's an in-play sanction via runs, nothing's going to change.
10% off. That, well, if anything is going to get administrators moving, that would be it. It's particularly bewildering where on the first day of a test match, say, you can see why there might be some advantage there in having your fast bowlers bowl fewer overs, giving them more rest time if they're going to have to go on into day 2, all of the rest of it. But in a situation like this where every over is gold in terms of actually trying to get a result, it does seem crazy. Ravichandran Ashwin was chatting to the commentary after play saying, we probably don't have enough overs. It's touch and go if we'll have enough overs to get a result in. You know what would have been handy? 10 more overs.
10 more.
You know, that would have
10
been
more.
That would have been pretty useful.
And part of it, and from a rhythm perspective, like again, I fully accept that today was brilliant cricket. There's often a lot of criticism back the other way, saying, "Oh well, look at the game. Does it matter that much if the game's brilliant and you lose 4 overs at the close?" And I respect, where that's coming from, right? But look at the rhythm today. They were never going to get their overs in the first session. The consultations between balls. I mean, we saw it in the women's test match at Bristol last week. Yet to see an official communique, by the way, about what the Indian women's team were fined last week for their abysmal over rate on day 1 and day 2. Maybe they won't get fined. Maybe they won't. We saw 2 weeks ago, England copped was it a 40% fine for 2 overs when they were 11 late or something ridiculous? I mean, this is endemic, and we even saw it with the Australian team. They're not here this week because of a slow over rate at Melbourne, which Justin Langer has freely admitted was because they didn't even know. It's just not even part of their thinking. And the rubber will hit the road tomorrow. There'll be people complaining tomorrow about English weather and saying that the weather ruined the test match and all the rest of it. And look, so be it. But as you said, Geoff, 10 overs would help.
10 overs would be handy, and who knows how many they lost on the other couple of days when we've had play. Player of the day, a tough one. Williamson was so resolute. Mohammed Shami was the biggest influence on the day's play for me, given the way that he changed what he was doing. He shifted his operating basis just enough that it had a massive influence. 4 wickets.
Yeah, you know how much I love Mohammed Shami, Geoff. I've not stopped talking about him for 5 years now, and I just thought he was just excellent today again. He cops a bit of grief about that length, and I think sometimes it's warranted, but it wasn't today because he was beating the bat from the get-go. He was mixing up his lengths a little bit. I just thought he was exceptional, and I just love the way he goes about it. How about that at one stage? It was the leg before wicket. Now, I'll go back through my notes here. It was the leg before wicket that he picked up, which must have been after lunch, the Grand Hom. 2 outswingers. The first ball he bowled in his previous over was a massive hooping outswing, and it landed at first slip. first ball of his next over landed on almost the identical spot on the pitch and was hitting off stump halfway up. I mean, that's just superb stuff from a classy operator. I'm going to forward Tim Southee, though, not just for the runs. He made 30 of them, but 2 wickets. He's now got 600 for New Zealand in all international cricket, which is a remarkable achievement for a guy who's done it with red ball, white, pink as well, over, I think, a 12 or 13-year international career. Removed both openers. He's been effective, economical, and he'll be a big factor on the final day, given that New Zealand don't have a spinner. They're going to need their quicks like Southee to bowl long spells, and his last 20 test matches have been just out of this world brilliant.
Yeah, it's interesting to see Shami swinging the ball a bit, Kyle Jamieson as well. You know, bowlers who you think of as hit the pitch kind of up and down bowlers, still getting the ball to swerve in the air in these conditions. Tim Southee was my nomination for Hall of Fame, because he's got this reputation for hitting a lot of sixes in Test cricket, which he has done. A lot of them came at the very start of his career, and he's been sitting on 73 for the last year and a half. He hasn't been able to get one away since, I think, February 2020. He's had, he's played 10 or so tests in that time, maybe 8, and hasn't been able to put one over the fence. He put 2 over the fence today, and in doing so, finally broke the tie with Ricky Ponting. Tim Southee and Ricky Ponting have been sitting on 73 each for that last 18 months. Southee's up to 75. A correspondent of mine on Twitter calculated that Southee has faced 9% of the deliveries that Ponting faced in Test cricket. And has beaten him for sixes. He's also gone past De Villiers in the past, so he's ahead of De Villiers, Tendulkar, Jayasuriya, Shahid Afridi. Many of the game's greats. He's only 26 from tracking down McCullum at the top.
I'm not sure if you saw my tweet, Geoff, but I couldn't help myself in saying that. Who's next? MS Dhoni, who hit 78. So the next on the list, he's currently 15th, Southee, and by any measure, I think there's about 4 other guys in the 70s. He should leapfrog all of them pretty soon. So fair play there. My Hall of Fame was actually Kyle Jamieson. In 1 over, he hit 5 twos. I'm not sure how rare that is, but I'm tipping it's pretty rare. I don't think 5 twos, and the other ball that he didn't hit for 2, he tried to put on the moon and missed. So I thought that was commendable the way he went about it. And much as it is with Southee, I think Jamieson will have his say tomorrow, because he bowled a really nice spell before stumps. Came on first change, moving it around, still menacing around that outside the off stump area. Tomorrow morning, Jamieson against Kohli and Rahane. Now, I don't think anyone's going to try and set the game up to kind of re-loop on your point before, but New Zealand, 32 runs behind, 8 wickets to get. I suppose, Geoff, if they can take the wickets in 45 to 50 overs, that's a decent slab of time. Much as it was with England's women on day 4 at Bristol, they don't need to snatch at it. They don't need to be impatient. They can. I know England's women didn't get there in the end, but tomorrow New Zealand can afford to be. If they don't get a wicket in the first 10 overs, it doesn't mean game over. They just need to get through their overs, give themselves every opportunity, and keep taking consistent wickets. Get a look at the lower half. There'll be a second new ball as part of it as well. And look, if they're set, 150 in 33 overs, well, it could be a hell of a finish. Let's hope so.
Could be a Colin de Grandhomme moment. Time for the mullet to get amongst it. We'll be back for that tomorrow for day 6. Never said that before. Day 6 of a test match. Going to enjoy that. So make sure you tune in to the Daily on day 6. Geoff Lemon, Adam Collins. If you like the show, you can jump on the Patreon. You can send it around to your friends. We've nearly got 18,000 subscribers on the channel. So hit the button and all that stuff.
Get us to 20,000.
Get us to 20, yeah. Why quibble? Why go for 18 when we could go for 20? And we will see you on day 6. Final word.
No.
Woodstock Cricket, home of the finest handmade cricket bats and soft goods. Visit either our showroom or workshop and experience the magic for yourselves. For bookings, contact info@woodstockcricket.co.uk.